Hey, everybody. Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much for sticking around, leaving your comments, and let's just get right to it. First of all, I'm going to get your comments out of the way because you're kind enough to leave them first before I say anything. And I'm going to start with Max. Max wrote, Raiders look horrendous, and the Raiders need a quarterback and fast. Hopefully, once the Athletics arrive in Las Vegas, they will be a better winning team. I'm betting that the A's win more championships and games. Zeke says, I'm praying to the baseball gods. You're 100% correct. Max says Zeke, and then Zeke says the real question is whether the Major League Baseball that will survive in Vegas. Yeah, it will, because the NFL is a whole different story. NFL is way more popular than MLB. I'm gonna take that up later. Uh, I wish Raider players in Dodger Stadium or Raiders play in Dodger Stadium with the Rose Bowl. And then Carlos says, I like the Raiders have their state, own state, right? And hey, everybody, welcome. And then where I'm here, Sure Chai says, I'm so sick of Luke Getsy. Ding. Now we have to hope AOC can save our season. And I was thinking you're thinking about Gardner Minshew, but we have to hope that, they start him. Say hello to the Atlanta Falcons, same as the old ones. Yeah, that was something. Let's just take everything in order. First of all, let's look at this mess of a Raiders game right here. This says it all right here, Sir Chai. This is the stats from the contest. This box score. Gardner Minshew was 23 of 33 for 257, one touchdown and one interception. He was sacked 4 times. But for me, the simple fact that he was 25 of 33 is the big issue. In other words, the Raiders put Minshew in because they believed that he had more playoff experience and could throw deeper and better than Aiden. And I have long admired Aiden's ability at a very young age. Remember, he was a rookie just a couple of years ago to guide a team, direct and set up the offense, direct and set up the lineup for the formations, the little things that matter in terms of making a football offense work. He's got them down. But in spite of that, someone upstairs, perhaps Mark, favored Gardner Minshew, even though he was new to the team and even had some interesting kind of bad juju chemistry with Adams. Remember that? Oh, no, with Max Crosby. Remember that? All right. It wasn't necessary to bring him in. And so here we have another situation where the Raiders have messed over a perfectly good quarterback. And I know all of you agree because many of you love what Aiden has done for the team in a very short time. And then also Ed says this, we got a very good defense, just a matter of time. I agree. The defense played outstanding. But a championship defense like the Ravens defense of 2000 is so good that it quite literally shuts down the opponent's offense. And the Raiders don't have that kind of defense. Effective, yeah. But look, Minshew not only turned the ball over by interception, he also fumbled. Okay. And remember that pass that he threw that came off of his right hand like that and went that way? He always has Minshew does these weird actions that come into a game. And I don't see the magic with him. I really don't. But I also don't see the magic with offensive coordinator Getsy, because to me, he's a pattern guy. He's the guy that goes and gets these patterns that other people do, and he puts them together and come up with a game plan and says, voila, I have my offense, right? But in terms of plays of creative design, I give him credit for creating a great running system for when he was there, of course, for Justin Fields when he was with the Bears, right? And he got Fields in some situations where he was throwing 300, 400 yards, doing a fantastic job with Justin Fields under the circumstances. But in terms of offensive adjustment, in terms of consistently constructing an offense that's effective and frightening, he's not the guy that I think of. Can I tie him to a particular offensive innovation? No. And that's really important today because of the fact that everybody's got everybody else on video, right? So you want to have something that differentiates you from your opponent. Sir Chai says, I agree, Zenny62. One thing I notice is the running game. White is not Josh Jacobs. No, and Josh is pissed off with the Raiders too. It's best for the Raiders to use to Matheson. Also, Mark Davis needs to be brave and bench Minshew. I think Mark Davis needs to be brave and let his head coach. And this is the other thing that I have, all right? Anthony Daniels, all right? Coach Daniels is the head coach, but he's got two great minds behind him, Marvin Lewis and who Marvin Lewis, you remember, coached the same Ravens team I was talking about that had one of the greatest defenses in NFL history. And then Tom Coughlin, the two-time Super Bowl winning coach of the New York Giants. All right. So you mean between all those folks, they can't come up with a winning scheme, right? I mean, that's why all of you are here now. And I really appreciate the fact that you all are here. And thank you. This is wonderful that you all are here. But you all have emailed me. Some of you texted me saying when you're coming on to talk about this. And here I am, because you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. That there is a problem with the silver and black. Mark, I think, is a little too heavy-handed. Much respect, but sometimes you have to be comfortable with, like he did with the Las Vegas Aces, right? He got the Becky Hammond and the best players for his women's WNBA team, and they are the super champions of the WNBA. Sir Chai says, very happy for Derek Carr today. Yeah, wasn't it an outstanding 47-17 win, right? But it was the Carolina Panthers. Yikes. Raiders better beat Panthers, and Browns 2-2 can save our season. Yeah, the Browns I think are dangerous because I think Jameis Winston's a better quarterback than DeShaun Watson for that system. And I love DeShaun, but I also think that I don't think he is fully rehabilitated yet. He doesn't seem to be confident. And at some point, at a point during the game, he was on the sidelines on the bench, and he was wiggling his arm like this. He was wiggling it like this, like something hurt. And I thought, he's not completely back. His right arm, that was said to be still on the mend during training camp. So something is wrong with DeShaun Watson. And now, would it have been appropriate to pull him and put Jameis in early on and then break the man further? No, it wouldn't have been. But on the other hand, he was getting killed. Even doesn't matter how tough he is and everything else. I think there's something called cruel and inhuman punishment that even comes into play with respect to how coach calls the game and gets his quarterback hurt, or her quarterback if he happens to be a head coach, which could happen in the future. So Chai writes this. Your thoughts on Kirk Cousins in Atlanta? Is it time for Penix? DeShaun Watson wants validation from others like he did before his controversy. He needs to let it go and play for himself. That's a good point. In answer to, Penix, I think that Zach Robinson, the Falcons offensive coordinator, didn't do Kirk Cousins any favors. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, quite accomplished with the Vikings. We've all seen it. But what he had him in were situations where, for example, they have a progression system that's based on the Bill Walsh style of offense. First read, second read, third read, right? But you have to design it so that you really have two reads, because by your third read, your rush is coming in on you at the same time. And that's what happened with Cousins. So he was going to throw to his third option just as he was getting rushed by the defensive tackle for the Steelers. I think it was Harrison, Mr. Harrison, and he threw an interception. So you would say, yeah, Cousins shouldn't do that, but I say that the offensive coordinator shouldn't design and call plays that their quarterbacks in situations like that. So the Falcons have some adjusting to do. Now, we'll turn to Penix with respect to his throwing motion, which is more efficient than Cousins, and passes that I believe Penix would have thrown on time that Cousins threw off time there to the sidelines. That happened where Cousins twice was late, and one situation nearly got picked off, all right? So it was almost like the Falcons decided, hey, look, now, you know, it looked like the Falcons really playing their fourth preseason game because Cousins hadn't gotten in to see any action, and yet Michael Penix had at least played, one? No, Kirk Cousins got to see a little action early on, but Penix saw more action. Then there are people saying, hey, why are you holding him back? Michael Penix has a better arm than Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins was in a bad situation. Mostly of the coach's creation, partly of his own. And Ed says, DeShaun Watson mentality not ready. Look at his film from previous stops. Oh, I think if you're talking about, you said DeShaun Watson not mentally. Well, his previous stop was the Texans. And DeShaun Watson was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Remember, he threw for 4,800 yards in 2019 before all this mess started with the alleged massage therapist and all that. Just because DeShaun said, hey, you know what? I want a black coach and I want to say who my coach is, or I'm gonna demand you trade me. The Texans had already given him a $120 million contract, and they were thinking about, oh, there goes our money walking out of the door. What do we do? Well, we'll concoct this scheme we'll call famous class action lawyer Tony Busby to make two possible, quote, victims look like, 10 or more. And that's exactly what Tony did. And really, if you look at the two complainees, they had no case whatsoever. The times that they said that DeShaun supposedly did what he did were actually times that there was no record of him actually being there. And they went to his home, and it was more of a pay situation that implies something more illegal, if you will. On top of all that, it happened during the pandemic at a time when Texas Governor Abbott put out a communication saying so massage therapists cannot have their businesses open. All right. So those two really were hinky. And that's why, in point of fact, there were never any criminal charges brought because there was nothing to charge. People forget that. You can't just say things about people and make it stick. You have to have that backing. Now, Sir Chai says, Ed, I agree. Houston has done right by black players and coaches, Stroud, D'Amico Ryans. Now they have new fortune and have entered a Super Bowl window. Yep, that's true. John Akala, how you doing? John writes, how did Khalil Mack push Raiders Pro Bowl at Colt Miller back? That should never happen. Because look, Colt Miller, folks, he's a 6'9". He's a big dude. Colt Miller is he's like Colin Miller. I'll say this. He reminds me of the gentleman that played Lurch in Addams Family. He is that big. All right. But there's this idea that, and I know John Gruden has this idea to a degree, that just because someone is big, they can play offensive tackle really well. And I'm not taking anything away from Colt Miller. Don't misunderstand me. But I'm saying that he is not the best. He is not like the other Raider offensive lineman I'm thinking about. Lincoln Kennedy is one. But then the gentleman from Washington that played for us for several years, who I had the pleasure of meeting at the Miami Super Bowl in 2009. We were all watching the LL Cool J concert. And his name flew right out of my mind. But at any rate, that guy was a technician, okay? And I think Colt Miller relies on his size, and Khalil Mack knows, particularly if you're going to single him up on somebody like that, which he hates, he considers that an insult, Khalil Mack does. So he is going to overpower him right at the point of attack. He's got to figure it out body-wise. He's a genius at it, Khalil Mack is, and that's what happened. Khalil Mack, as you know, plays with the Chargers now, should have never been traded from the Raiders, which is what John Gruden did. Ed says, yes, sir. DeShaun Watson from when the alleged BS of what he was accused of. Thank you. Right. No, I remember DeShaun Watson. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Remember that, Mom? I mean, Mom's a big DeShaun Watson fan. We both are. And the guy could do no wrong. I remember we were on a layover in Houston when they were in the playoffs. And there are people who were on layover from plane to plane, maybe for a few minutes, but they deliberately stopped to watch DeShaun in action. That's how popular he was. That's how much of a god he was in Houston. All right, let's just put it out there. So they did a really massively good job, the Texans did, of crafting a scheme to ruin his reputation. And this is why athletes should always have, reputation management firms like Zenny 62 Media to help them out. Because, look, people, if they have the means and they feel like they have a lot to lose, will turn the media against you as an athlete. Fact. All right. Sir Chai says, John Akala, I know that was embarrassing. Raiders offensive line, especially Parham and James, were getting pancaked. But see, here's my point. Where are the short passes? Where are the passes that make it hard? You see the passes that the Rams were throwing in their game against the Lions? Very effective, where they would have the running back kind of hide under the wide receiver and then peek out here, or they reverse it with the tight end over here. All right. Brilliant game plan. Yeah, I know they lost. It was a close game. It was an exciting game. But that doesn't mean that what they did offensively, the Rams, was not notable or effective. It was both. Why couldn't the Raiders have done that? That goes back to the whole Getsy issue. Okay, talking about the Raiders offensive coordinator. So the Raiders have their defense. Ed says, I remember he donated his first game check to people in need, DeShaun Watson. DeShaun Watson, I have mad respect for you. He did. DeShaun Watson is a very good man. They crafted a story about him. Straight up. The women that Tony Busby said were his clients, turned out they weren't. Some of them were just they were in it because Tony had convinced them that they would make big money off him. All right. And Tony, he actually wrote this on Instagram, basically said, well, these are black women. Because they're black means they have a complaint against him. And I wrote back to him, I said, Tony, you're actually not going to do that, are you? That's how he thinks. But again, it's also why he lost the bid to be council member in his own doggone neighborhood. I'm talking about Tony Busby, as well as mayor several years before, because he has race on the brain and he thinks certain people buy this retrograde stuff. I told him behind the scenes on Instagram, I said, people don't think that way anymore, and you're going to embarrass yourself. I was right. The only thing that he did to recover is he got a couple of rappers as clients and helped them out of their situation, realizing prior to getting them as clients, he was on the wrong side of the way of thinking. He doesn't like to be thought of as not contemporary Tony Busby, and so he shifted, all right? But yeah, and Tony, as far as DeShaun, got paid up front. So he really didn't care whether he won or not. He was already, liquid because of the deal. Truth. Niners versus Jets predictions. I was supposed to have on my buddy Anthony Carrillo, but he has a personal issue that came up involving his child, and let's pray for him. I believe that the Niners are going to blow the Jets out of the building. I am not sold on the New York Jets under Robert Saleh as head coach. And the reason I'm not, and I'm happy to be exciting to see if they're different, is this, in previous years, lack of attention to detail. A team follows the attitude of its head coach. And he's ripping and running down the sidelines and emotional, and someone thinks he's going to throw punches and all of this stuff. That's not the kind of image you want for your players to follow. You want something that says that you're a leader, that you can stand tall when it gets tough. And not only that you have a great game plan and an intelligent scheme to go with it. I don't see that from the Jets. I didn't see that last year, and I have no reason to expect it this year. The 49ers, I expect it. You get it from Kyle Shanahan, and I believe that matters. Okay, so, and if I'm wrong, you'll let me know about it. Of course, if I'm right, you'll let me know about it too. Watson got Bill Bill Cosplayed, which sucks. But this says Sir Chai. But this is why he needs to bail out and prove his doubters wrong. But maybe mentally Watson is too far gone. Jalen Hurts better shake his hangover off as well. But we can't talk about DeShaun Watson, the Browns, without mentioning head coach Kevin Stefanski, who calls the plays, all right, and Ken Dorsey, who designs them, who was previously with the Bills. Now, if you take a look at what Ken Dorsey did with the Bills, fourth ranked in offense in 2022 and 2023, you would have reason to believe that they were going to put out an explosive offense against the Cowboys, but that didn't happen. Instead, they went into this, well, we're going to play right into their hands, and we're going to throw passes that are as deep downfield than mid-range, which plays into the amount of time that the Cowboys rushers need to get to Watson. In other words, the Browns were not throwing a lot of short passes. When they were slants, which were predictable. They were not out passes to, say, the running back. They didn't throw to the running back much at all. Some, but not much. And if they're going to take away your wide receivers, hey, let them take away your wide receivers and throw the backs underneath patterns. That's classic. That's just textbook. The Browns didn't do that. But also, as I say, this goes back to my comment about Watson. He still looks tentative. I think Jameis Winston would have given them a better chance to win. Sir Chai says, before I go, what was your favorite game? Mine was Houston versus Indianapolis. Oh, I missed that one. I saw that Anthony Richardson had a heck of a game, although they lost. The Sunday night football game pitting the Lions against the visiting LA Rams, was my favorite game. That was really a lot of fun to watch. Wasn't it, Mom? And so the Rams game and Lions, yeah, we love that contest. That was I'm a Lions fan. Okay, I'm a Bears fan because I'm from Chicago, and I had the pleasure of interviewing Caleb Williams. But I'm a Lions fan for a number of reasons, because I simply like how they fit into the fabric of Detroit's recovery. All right. Detroit is on the rise. It's great to see a city be at one mind as they were when they had the NFL draft. And 775,000 people came down to downtown Detroit. And I have to give a shout out to my friend, Bedrock CEO Kofi Bonner, and his boss, Dan Gilbert, who owns the Cleveland Cavaliers, but who owns a Rocket Mortgage and $6 billion worth of property, both in Detroit and Cleveland, for really understanding what it takes to turn a city around. And that's what they've done with Detroit. Remarkable work. But, Detroit got to a point where, and Oakland's going to get to this point where it gets tired. The question is, what will Oakland do to get out of it? That's another subject. I have an answer for another time, just a couple of days away. Now, Shachai says, good points, Zany 62. Thank you. And he says, Chicago and Detroit, having their football teams has really elevated the city, says Sir Chai, especially downtown Detroit. I've been there. It is transformative as well. Yeah, I was there for the 2006 Super Bowl. I rented a car and literally got lost in the southern part of downtown Detroit, in this area where I have never seen this gigantic field of abandoned buildings, and the place was literally pitch black. I put my high beams on. Wow, that same area has been transformed. The ball field is brand new. There are apartments around there are all brand new, condominiums as well, restaurants, all just, as Kofi was saying, part of this economic explosion of buildings. Very impressed with what they've done since 2006, making Detroit literally come alive, and it was on its best behavior and display for the NFL draft. Yeah, I agree with you. It really did. They really have done a lot. Really have. So anybody else have points or questions they want to make? Because I'm going to jump out if you don't. And I'll be back tomorrow. Wait a minute. John says, what do you think of the new kickoff rule? Do you like it? I do, because it is more sensitive of the players in terms of injury. It needed to happen. Too many concussions, too many people getting to their, well, 40s, 50s, 60s and up with brain injuries. That's got to stop. It really has to stop. I remember I met the wife of the late Baltimore Colts tight end John Mackey. Oh, she was so upset with the NFL and how they treated her back then. Her husband, they've worked to make amends with her. Since then, she's been active at a number of events, but the story is still a sad one. And football doesn't need to be as brutal as it has been. And it's only because, look, the athletes are now super people. And in fact, I read somewhere today that, sports are the new celebrity culture, whereas it was, Hollywood in the past. Right now, it's sports figures, not just at all men, it's women. Like, look, Caitlin Clark, right? Whoever thought that the women's basketball would take off like it has, but it has. And you have people doing all these sports that you've never heard of that suddenly get TV time because TV is hungry for something that collects our eyeballs, and sports is the reality TV of today. So it's a fascinating development in our society that also has a good economic development component, which I won't dive into today. But also, since we're talking about football and games and outcomes, as much as the win happened against my Raiders, I got to give a shout out to Jim Harbaugh, national champion. Remember, national champion head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, wins in his first outing in some years. And he's had success in the NFL before. He took the Niners Super Bowl, lost his brother in Super Bowl 40 in 2013 Super Bowl as well. John Akala says, I wonder if college football will do the same thing soon. I think it will, because these injuries are just they really are getting out of hand. I think they will. I really do. All right, folks, I'm going to I'll be back tomorrow. But hey, look, this is fantastic, and you all really affirm what I'm doing here. And again, I'll be following your requests for more and more talk about the Raiders, the National Football League, and everything else going on with the NFL, and also other sports. I'll even turn back to talking about the NBA again. I haven't done that in a long time. Hey, keep visiting, keep the donations coming when you can. Make them bigger. And thank you all. Thank you all. Anybody else before I go? Any other questions? Oh, Las Vegas. Las Vegas, I want to say this about Las Vegas and baseball. Las Vegas attracts over 40 million people a year. And what we should have known when the Raiders went to Las Vegas, something I didn't realize at the time and learned, is that you have an audience of people from around the world that visit that become a set of people who want to see your attraction, which happens to be NFL football or baseball. It is literally unthinkable that the Athletics would put a ballpark, a state-of-the-art, brand new ballpark, down on the Strip where the Tropicana was, although it's still there and is now, right, and not do well. Okay? That's just unthinkable with all the people that will come to see. Okay, maybe you're not an A's fan, but look, Yankees fan, hey, look, what's next door to the ballpark? New York, New York. Couldn't New York set up some sort of discount deal for Yankees fans just as a kind of a play on the whole matter and send them to the game against the Yankees against the Athletics? Of course. There are all kinds of marketing possibilities down there, many I haven't thought of. So for anyone to think that it's not going to work, that volume for Las Vegas, these are volume industries that attract big numbers of people. The NFL and Major League Baseball. Now, I know you're going to say, Zinni, the White Sox drew 17 people. I get it. It's dangerous down there in Chicago. There's a lot wrong with that area. And also it calls into question how the White Sox themselves are being ran, which I don't have enough information to, dive into here. And even though it's not even the right area to go into right now at this time, there's clearly a problem. Okay. Clearly a problem. Will that be true for the Athletics in Las Vegas? No, absolutely not. I'm sorry to tell you that. Look, Oakland should have responded to the Athletics in a timely fashion, but it didn't. It let this new mix of political involvement where everything becomes a gossip and get involved. It's not economic development, and it's a big reason why Oakland has not worked to recover its economy. I already wrote my piece about that, which I'm going to put on zennyReport.com right after I'm done with this. All right. Okay, so it is that time, folks. Thank you for this near half hour, 29 minutes, 54 seconds and counting. That and John says, I think Oyo is going to profit big. Yeah, the Oyo, I'm surprised that no one's bought the Oyo. The OEO is the hotel that is literally right adjacent to what will be the Athletics and Gaming and Leisure property, along with Bally's, right? And this Daz about Bally's not having money, don't buy it, okay? Because Bally's has one thing. They're called investors, all right? They're called investors. And if those investors believe they're going to get a return on their investment, and they know the cash flow is coming through from all the activities that Bally's organization has, and that Bally's can borrow money to clear that, they're going to do it. Don't believe the hype from people who don't want this thing built, because it's going to get built. It just is. All right. Okay, folks. Thank you. God bless you. And that ends the stream. Again, thank you all. Thank you, Sir Chai. Thank you, John. Thanks, Ed. Thanks, Max. Thank you, everybody. See you tomorrow. Or is it today? Later today. Today's Monday. All right. See ya.